PodcastCoug Season 2, Episode 8.
You're listening to the PodcastCoug Radio Network with your host, James Laurie. The PodcastCoug is your weekly Coug On Demand show featuring all things Cougs and Washington State Cougar football. And now, here is your host, PodcastCoug.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the PodcastCoug. I am James Laurie, the PodcastCoug, and we are all things Coug football, all things Cougar football. We're at 30 minutes of Coug Talk. We're going to talk about this episode, by the way, episode number 8. We're going to talk about our athletic director situation and, of course, the debacle against Cal last Friday night, and then, of course, the upcoming game against the Colorado Buffaloes. So thanks again for listening. Hey, thanks for your weekly support. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, and you're going to get the automatic weekly updates to the weekly episodes to the PodcastCoug. So make sure you hit the subscribe button. Well, hey, we all know the news, of course. Bill Moose leaving for Nebraska. I think that's a good thing, right? I mean, a lot of people, the first reaction is a knee-jerk reaction, and it's like, oh my. You got to remember, a setback is a setup. It sets us up for something better when we have setbacks in life. And also, we want the right doors to open and the right doors to close. And clearly, Bill did his job. What does Moose have left to do at Washington State, right? What does he have left to do? He's a builder. He is a builder. And he went to Nebraska because it's a bigger program and a bigger paycheck. They've got a bigger budget as well. And he's, like I said, Bill is a builder. Bill Moose is a builder, and he's ready for the next challenge. And think about it. The money's going to be $7 million over the next 5 years. Okay. And by the way, Leach isn't going anywhere. I mean, it's hilarious on the message boards, right? On Wazoo Watch. We've got people in fear, and all they're doing now is the first little setback in Cougar football is, oh my gosh, Leach is going. He's out of town. He's leaving. Well, you know what? Yeah, he has the right to terminate a contract, I guess, but it's his free will, but he's not going anywhere. We know exactly what his MO is, right? And I don't want to really get into Mike Leach right now and the coach that won't be leaving Washington State. We know this is a perfect fit for him. $3 million a year. He likes to be the big man on campus, and he is. And look at the recruits we're getting. I mean, we're getting recruits, although Friday night wasn't very positive, but after that USC game, we picked up 2 great kids that committed early. I'm in. He's just getting started. Mike Leach is just getting started, folks. And he's not going anywhere, and a lot of programs wouldn't be the right fit anyway. There's the only discussion of University of Miami, because that's close to where, the Florida Keys. But there's no reason for Mike to he's not into, he's what can you could. I mean, the most expensive home in Pullman right now is like $900K. $800,000 to $900,000. That's the most expensive home, unless you do a custom build, a 5,000 square foot home. It's crazy. But so anyway, enough about CML, right? But good for Bill, and there's going to be some positives. Now, obviously the search committee has started. And you heard the President Schultz. You're going to cast a broad net and really take the time to cast a huge broad net from anybody from either FCS or FBS or Power 5 or even maybe somebody like Jason Gesser, who would be a good coach or maybe a good athletic director. I mean, maybe he's not qualified to start right out, but you never. In other words, a very large net, and one of the key essentials requirements is to obviously improve our fundraising at Washington State. And so this director must have skill sets for development, professional development, which is to be a great fundraiser, right? So, and of course, a true Coug, and basically get the athletic department out of a deficit. I think we're 3 years away. If President Schultz is telling the truth, we're about 3 years away, projected to be out of the red. Okay. And he's not happy with the Pac-12 network revenue, and I can understand that. I mean, when you look at the Pac-12 network on TV, it's not like their commercials are not the same level of revenue as ESPN and Fox and Big Fox is. So they're struggling to gain those major television account advertisers or clients to spend the big bucks, because it still is. I mean, the Pac-12 network is a very good TV network, but they're still not ABC and ESPN or Fox, and so they're struggling on the revenue side, and not sure what the answer on that is. If you think about the Pac-12 network, they're getting the leftovers, right? So cherry pick through our contract with the TV deal. And you know what? Nobody really should complain about night games. I mean, yeah, it's brutal. Who has it more difficult in the whole United States to do it over and back is Washington State. We have, you hear these Montlake guys complaining because of a 7:30 kick at Husky Stadium. Are you kidding me? Literally, King County guys can jump on a public transportation or even light rail and be at Husky Stadium in 20 minutes and be back at midnight in their homes, where if we're either back in our homes at 4 a.m. on a brutal over and back, where you literally have to pull your car over somewhere and take an hour nap, or have your wife or friend drive, or do it, Friday, Saturday night, a weekend hotel rate, $700, $800 a night for a 2-night minimum in the Palouse. So those are some of the choices, but or take the plane, fly in, But we have it harder than anybody, and I'm not going to complain about that, because the TV revenue is where it's at, and that's what pays the bills, and that's what's paying our coach. We would not have Coach Leach if it wasn't for Fox, Big Fox, and ESPN. So, but what my point, though, back to my original point, the Pac-12 network Big Fox and ESPN is cherry picking the best games, right? They look at obviously market size like LA, and they look at the quality of the game, the opponents or the teams, and they're going to cherry pick, right? And they have all season long. They do it every year, and the leftovers, who they don't pick, goes to Pac-12 network, and that's a smaller size audience, and so the revenue isn't there. That's one of the concerns. I don't know what the solution on that is, but President Schultz made it very clear what he's looking for. Like I said, a team player, a true Coug who can, with professional development and fundraising skills, somebody who's very familiar with the program, and they've got a deadline of February 1st, which is 3.5 months. So I think that's great. I think that's just fine. It's after our bowl game, so that gives plenty of time for any sort of ADs that would like to move up, that are, maybe they're at BCS level, or FCS level. And so that's perfect, February 1st. So I'm happy for Bill. It's a chance for him going out in his life at really a big-time program as Nebraska. And it was a shocker to everybody on staff. Mr. Moose didn't tell anybody. Only his wife knew. And so when the word got out, our coach was shocked, our president was shocked. So he's not bringing anybody with him. So I'm not concerned. And like Mike Leach said in his press conference, he's not interested to go anywhere. So that, folks that are on the boards that keep bringing it up, it's beyond me. Okay. It really is beyond me. Anyway. So again, I wish Bill Moose the best at Nebraska, and except for when we play the Cornhuskers, right? Okay, number 8, Cougs rolled into Strawberry Canyon last Friday night. And of course, that was just a debacle. I mean, we don't need to talk a lot about it. I'm just going to highlight some of one of the worst games ever as a Coug. We were, of course, ranked number 8 at the time. We had 7 turnovers, 9 sacks, 37-3 no-show. We didn't show up. We were complacent. We were literally complacent. We talked about on previous PodcastCoug episodes to eliminate the noise as a player. Don't be at all tempted to open up your laptop or your phone and read articles about or a desktop computer for that matter, to read any of our articles or message boards or listening to a podcast. Okay, stay away from that. Avoid the noise. And when you start listening to how great you are, you're going to get complacent. You're a top 10 team. And you basically you have a badge on your jersey that says, hey, we're going to be hunted by everybody. Luke, 5 interceptions from Luke Falk, 5 picks. Can you believe it? It's like you remember that set it and forget it, that slice and dice. How about flush this game and forget it? Just let's move on next. And it happens in life. It's, there's a time to win and there's a time to lose. And it was us, It was the worst performance we've ever seen in a long time. Friday the 13th, blame it on that. That's fine. It was interesting that it was Friday the 13th. Here we are, number 8 ranked, arriving in Memorial Stadium. And literally, the team bus was 20 minutes late because the bus broke down. And so it was 20 minutes late. I mean, that was a sign right there around Strawberry Canyon. So, by the way, who broke down the bus? What did Eddie Murphy stick a banana up the tailpipe, up the bus's tailpipe? Beverly Hills Cop, 1984. Hey, and of course things didn't get much better. 37-3, Golden Bears were literally winless in the Pac-12 until Friday night, and it gave Cal its only second upset of a top 10 team since 1978. All right, so there they go, right? First time since 2012, since that was Leach's first season, that the Cougs have been held without a touchdown, right? We have a target on our back. When you're in the top 10, you got a target on your back, and we are the hunted. We're actively being pursued. And every team is going to want to take us down, especially when you're in the top 10. It's a huge upset. Everybody, they're going to be more fired up generally than we are, except for when, we did a great job being ready for USC and Oregon, right? But it ended up being a trap game, and nobody saw that coming because Cal got blown out by Washington, the Huskies. They just blew them out. And we thought, we'll just, show up and win the game. And guess what? Cal wanted it more than we did. Cal outcoached us. They outplayed us in every position. They wanted to win more. They tried harder than we did, and they tried more consistently than we did. It was a nightmare, plagued by a lot of mistakes by Luke Falk. He threw a career high of 5 interceptions. And that's more than triple his total in one night. He's been so, he hangs on the ball too long. We all know that. Luke's biggest weakness is he holds on the ball. But look at how many interceptions he's thrown throughout the year. Well, Friday night he threw 5. That triples the most he had all season long. And, he did take the blame. Obviously the team wasn't in sync. They didn't do what they needed to do. And, no kidding, right? So, the defense didn't show up. What happened to our whole defense? 7 turnovers. That's just unacceptable. And Luke admitted to all that. So, we're all human. It shows, we're all human. And then he got sacked 9 times. 9 times. Yes. So far this semester, Ferris has been absent 9 times. 9 times? I don't remember Ferris being sick 9 times. That's probably why he wasn't sick. He was skipping school. Wake up and smell the coffee, Mrs. Bueller. It's a fool's paradise. He's just leading you down to the primrose path. Ferris Bueller, 9 times. If anybody remembers Ferris Bueller's Day Off, that was a great scene. Ferris hasn't been absent 9 times. And the principal is looking at the computer, the CRT monitor, going from like, I don't know, the digits were going up. Was it going up or going down? It was going from 9 to 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, down to like 2. And he's going, Grace. Great movie, by the way. Ferris Bueller's Day Off. So sacked 9 times. Falk was sacked 9 times. He finished 28 of 43 for 286 yards and had the 5 interceptions, the 5 picks without throwing a touchdown for the second time this season. And he was pathetic, but he said he was pathetic. And what Leach said, he says, we're a bunch of pathetic front runners, right? So Leach, Cal played harder than we did, as simple as that. Second year in a row, former Eastern Washington head coach Bo Baldwin got the best of Alex Grinch. You remember Bo Baldwin took the Cougs Eastern Washington on that opening game last year, and Bo Baldwin now is sitting on the Cal coaching staff as a defense coordinator. So in the end, we only settled for a 52-yard Powell field goal. That was it. It was only 7 first offensive drives. We had 7 offensive drives, and that we only had 3 points. On the first half. So hey, listen, crazy, right? So we're done with Cal. And next, so coming up, second part of the episode here on Podcast Coug, we're going to talk about the Colorado Buffaloes. It's homecoming. That's coming up next, right here on the Podcast Coug.
Hey, Coug fans. You're podcasting with James Laurie and the Podcast Coug Radio Network. The Podcast Coug is your weekly Coug on Demand show, featuring all things Cougar football in Washington State. To help you get through the week, hit the subscribe button or check us out on iTunes, the App Store, iOS, Google Play, Stitcher, or at PodcastCoug.com.
Everybody, welcome back to the second half of the Podcast Coug. I am James Laurie, the Podcast Coug, and we are talking about Colorado homecoming. Martin on Saturday night. We are number 15 this week, 6-1. Colorado Buffaloes, of course, 4-3. Martin 7:45 ESPN, and the line is 10.5 Cougs. All right, so, hey, Mike McIntyre, he's in his 5th year, the coach, had his best year last year, was a surprised season last year, led the Buffs to their first Pac-12 South title with a 10-4 record, and ended up a loss to Oklahoma State in the Alamo Bowl. But the Buffs are, they are again rebuilding after losing 4 stud defenders to the NFL. They lost 4 guys to the NFL. And, we lost to Colorado last year. They were tough. They were really, really good on the defensive side, especially. This year, new quarterback Steven Montez, he's in his first full season as their starter. He's been fairly efficient for the Buffs. Sophomore quarterback has completed 64% of his passes, 1,700 yards, thrown 12 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Colorado, in a balanced offense, Montes is athletic enough that he can pick up some yards on the ground when needed. Right, 6'2", 6'5", actually, 225 pounds. He averages about 31 yards per game on the ground for himself, scoring 1 running touchdown this season. Philip Lindsay is back. If you remember Philip Lindsay, running back, the Buffs senior running back, he's really put together a pretty good season, pretty stellar. He's 5th on all Colorado's all-time rushing list. He's got 995 yards, 10 rushing scores this season. And the Cougs defense probably, they remember him from last year in Boulder. It was the running back. It was Lindsay that went off. 144 yards, rushing yards, 2 touchdowns as the Buffs beat the Cougs last year in Boulder, 38-24. Linebacker Rick Gamboa. He's their junior inside linebacker. He's referred to as the quarterback of the defense. Gamboa leads the Buffs with 32 consecutive starts, the most consistent defensive player with the team. He's got 66 tackles this season. He's pretty good. He's also been pretty good at covering against the pass and leads the Buffs with 5 pass breakups. So they're really good on their pass defense. Colorado is really good. So, I think the Cougs are going to be ready. I don't think they're going to be complacent. Not with that beat down, that debacle at Berkeley at Strawberry Canyon. No way they're going to show up. I mean, they will show up. It's homecoming. It's 300 tickets left. It's going to be probably be sold out by Saturday. We know that Tavares Martin Jr. is suspended for the game. Leach said that Martin was suspended for a violation of team rules, didn't specify what TMJ did or broke, what sort of rules were broken. So, and that's unfortunate because Martin leads the Cougs in touchdowns and receiving yards. So our number 1 receiver, both in TDs and reception yards, is not going to be playing on Saturday night. Very unfortunate, TMJ. I hope you learn a lesson and go from there. We move on, right? Wind, rain, and 44 degrees. It's going to be wet. Yeah, bring your rain ponchos. It's kind of like when you pack for a trip. Disneyland not Disneyland. One of these big water parks in Southern California. There's a bunch of them. Soak City, Hurricane Harbor, the Roaring Rapids at Disney, the Adventure, California Adventure. You could go to Amazon and just buy like a 5-pack of these ponchos. So you're sitting in that water ride. You can get drenched, no problem. But of course, if you do that, they're not going to have Coug logo on them. So make sure you do bring your ponchos, your Coug gear. It's going to be obviously a wet one. It's great for Colorado. They've had a lot of dry and warm weather down in Boulder this week. So they're going to hit the rain. The Cougs are practicing in the rain. They're getting used to it. It's raining hard on the west side, and that's just going to carry over to the eastern Washington. Like I said, they've got a great pass defense. Probably the best. Colorado's got the best pass defense in the conference. And, they are off to a 4-3 start. Granted, they made it to the Pac-12 championship last year. Like we said, they ended up in the Alamo Bowl. So, it's going to be a very competitive game. And so, we got to be obviously ready. I mean, this is going to be another test how well the Cougs can overcome that setback and be ready and just take out Colorado or play a very, very competitive game. First 7,500 fans are going to receive a back home T-shirt. That T-shirt's going to be given out at the gates, not every single gate, but the major gates like A through I, and then the premium seating. So, back home T-shirts is yours. First 7,500 fans, and also here's a kind of a new. So on noon Saturday. If you're looking at some fill time with your family, and you've hit all the other spots on campus or outside of campus, Coach Kent has just announced the men's basketball. They're going to open up practice on Saturday at noon. You can head over to Beasley at noon, 12 o'clock, and watch the Cougs men's basketball team practice. And you can pick up a schedule, a poster. They're also going to autograph for the kids, maybe. They will autograph, team autographs for the kids. And you're going to hear Coach Kent give a little speech. So that starts at noon on Saturday. And then we got another announcement. Arizona Wildcats game on the following weekend on the 28th on Saturday in Tucson. That time is announced. That's a 6:30 kick on the Pac-12 networks. So that's a 6:30 game in the desert at Tucson with the Arizona game. That's about it right now for the Podcast Coug for this episode. We're going to catch you next week. Make sure you have a great Saturday. Make sure you don't forget your rain ponchos, and go Cougs.
You've been listening to the PodcastCoug Radio Network with your host, James Laurie. The PodcastCoug is your weekly Coug On Demand show featuring all things Cougs and Washington State Cougar football. This has been a presentation of the PodcastCoug Radio Network. Find us at PodcastCoug.com.
N-G-T